Hi guys, welcome back to Becoming by Nqobile. Today we're speaking about social media and the impact or the influence that it has on our mental health. And I have a lovely guest joining me from the other side of the camera, Mr. Mr. Maps himself.
What's up? Always good to be here having powerful conversations. And yeah, really keen to pick your brain on this one and yeah, for us to chat about this.
Let's go.
Yeah, so I think it's such an interesting topic. I think I was watching a conversation that Dr. Umar Johnson was having on radio, and he was just speaking about materialism and how people are using that to determine their self-worth and making the contrast that his grandparents actually lived an amazing life without
Yeah.
social media because they didn't have all of that external pressure. So yeah, I think the idea of social media having that external pressure and just maybe what are some of the symptoms that you're seeing in practice that are stemming from social media and how people relate to it?
Sure, it's quite a loaded one. I think I work with quite a lot of young people in my practice, and I've worked at a lot of mental health care institutions that admit a lot of young people. And one of the most common things that we're seeing now, we're seeing a higher influx of people coming in due to cyberbullying, due to identity crises, due to social anxiety, feeling inadequate, feeling less than, body dysmorphia, eating disorders. And one of the most common threads between all of these presentations is the perception that people are developing about themselves as a result of social media, and the perception that people are developing about the world and how they're interacting with the world as a result of social media as well.
Sure, that's so powerful. I think just listening to you saying that, it's making me think that people are using social media as a mirror and not as a view into someone else's life, which means that automatically means that I'm now not just consuming the content, but I'm using the content to either set a standard for myself
Yeah.
or put pressure on myself for this is where I should be or this is how I should do things. Yeah, do you find that that's a thing that people are actually now using it as a mirror?
100%. And I think social media being used as a mirror is completely wrong because you're using it not for its purpose. I think, I'm not sure of the inception of the concept of social media, but I think for me, like from what I've gotten about it, is that it was literally created as a tool to display, as a tool to push narratives, to push messages, to promote for marketing, to raise awareness and so forth. I don't think that in the initial design for social media it was meant to be used as something that's supposed to reflect what your sense of self and your sense of self-worth is supposed to be like. So using social media as a mirror or as something that's supposed to dictate how life is supposed to be like is using it incorrectly. And now we're dealing with the repercussions of that as well.
Sure. And then in that light, I'm also just thinking about shucks. If I then use social media as a mirror, do you think parenting has a part to play with it? That maybe either maybe my parents did play a good role, but I'm just consuming too much of social media, or they're part of my identity, which I'm not yet developed in. Therefore, I'm using what other people are saying and using social media as a mirror in that regard.
100%. Because remember, children are not born with values and really like knowing how things are supposed to work and how they're supposed to operate and how they're supposed to function. They're taught that. So if you as a parent are going to neglect your role to nurture, to sort of drive the way in which you want your child to go, if you're going to neglect your role to teach values and to teach principles, your role to affirm, your role to validate, your role to lead by example, if you're not going to do that as a parent, then you're leaving that void or that space open for something else or someone else to do that as well. And that's where we're seeing a lot of parents sort of like shifting the responsibility to social media to raise their children on their behalf. And the thing with social media is that social media is a global thing. So it's going to teach global principles, which are not necessarily umthetho wakamaphumulo. So if I'm raised in a family where we're eating supper at 7 and social media says it's better to eat supper at 5, then you're giving your child too much space or too much leeway to adopt other standards that might not really correlate with your personal family visions or family goals and so forth. And it's interesting because it's not all wrong. Like I remember when I just had my son, TikTok was one of the places that like I'd go to for like basic information on how to do this or how to do that. So it's not all wrong, but it just requires that balance. And obviously understanding that social media is not the be all do all. So you do still need to exercise your own discernment, your own thinking, your own, like interact with your own values when making decisions on how to raise your children. Hi guys, so I'm interrupting this episode to let you guys know that this episode was proudly sponsored by the Becoming Mindfulness Retreat, which is happening again this year for our second run on the 17th till the 19th of October 2025 at the Old Mushroom Farm. So if you're feeling fatigued, if you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling like your mental health and your self-care and just your concepts of self and pouring back into yourself again has taken a little bit of a dip, please make sure that you click the link on the bio and get all the information that you need about the mindfulness retreat. Love to see you there.
Yeah, shucks, that's so good. I think in light of that, I'm realizing that social media doesn't also only affect children. Like, it does affect adults. So maybe rather in the context of South Africa, like I'll make an example, like the whole thing of, I know that most people aren't taught to as soon as they get money, like you just blow it and you use it in a certain way and you pursue lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because sinas fundiswa ukuthi your first salary, you take it home.
Yeah.
There's certain principles that we get taught.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm realizing that the adults are being affected by social media just as much. And I think, yes, the children, I think because they're more foundational, it's easier to maybe just try and help in that regard. But have you seen things play out also with adults in terms of how they relate to social media?
100%, because social media has a louder voice now compared to our community. So I grew up in Makhaya where the communal voice was louder. So if there were community standards of, like you don't do this, or if you do that, then you're going to be severely punished. And that voice was louder. But now the social media, the social voice is louder. So for example, if you look at narratives like Indoda Must, if you look at narratives like that's a social media driven sort of thing, and it's gonna catch light because it's the louder voice, and unfortunately it's going to affect the way in which people view their roles as men or women or relationships and so forth.
Yeah, I think that's so good. You raised such an important topic and perspective in the way that you see it. In terms of, I think this might apply, it might not. For girls that you see, what do you find is the most common influence challenge from social media? And for the guys that you see, what do you find is the most common challenge that they get from social media?
I think it's both just identity. I think it's both just placing their sense of self-worth and the identity around the voice of social media. And obviously that trickles into different things. Like for males, it has its own repercussions that may differ for females. But the common thing between both is just people placing their sense of self-worth depending on what the social media voice says about themselves.
Sure, that's so good. I feel like there's so many things that we need to continue unpacking, and our community can just maybe give us some pointers as to what are some of the things they think we can unpack when it comes to social media and the role it plays in society, our identity, etc.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it would be nice to do a longer video, sort of just breaking down like each of the subtopics that we've mentioned regarding the topic of social media. So it would really be nice for you guys to interact with this video. Just share your thoughts, share your experiences, good or bad. And like I'm saying, like there is a good side to social media. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this content. So there really is a good side to social media, but we really just need to learn that balance and not give it too much power over us as well. So 100% interested to have another longer conversation about this topic again.